One of the best ways to get better footage with your Mini 5 Pro is to have better control over your drone. Now the stock rates that come in the Gain and Expo settings are okay, but over the years I've fine-tuned these settings and rates in order to give me the best control for capturing cinematic footage, and today I'm going to share all of those rates with you, along with explaining why I chose them in case you want to modify them yourself. And to make things even easier, to go along with this video is a completely free downloadable PDF with all of my Gain and Expo settings on them, so you don't have to pause as you go through and then try and put them in. You can just go after this video, download the sheet and copy them nice and easily. So if you're new around here, my name is Justin and it is great to meet you, and if you've been here before, it is great to have you back. So let's first start off by having a look at some footage that I've captured using my cinematic Gain and Expo settings. Okay, so now that you've seen what's possible, let's start by explaining what are Gain and Expo settings. Well, these settings are the relationships between your control inputs and the drone's movement, and you can change a variety of parameters here, from the maximum speed of the drone to how smooth the yaw input is or how fast the gimbal tilts, and you can optimize all of these settings to give you smoother, more cinematic control and therefore smoother, more cinematic footage. So in order to find these settings and fine tune them, first off we need to click on the three dots in the top right hand corner. Then we're going to go onto the control tab, and just here we can see it says Gain and Expo tuning. So if we click on that, we can see we have settings available for Cine, Normal and Sport. So you can change the Gain and Expo settings in each of these flight modes so they all can work nicely together and it still feels well balanced. So we'll click on Cine here. In fact, we'll go into Normal, and I'll just quickly run through each of the different settings, what they mean and how changing them is going to affect how the drone responds. Just a quick point before we move on, all the controls on the Mini 5 Pro are proportional controls. So that means the amount you move the stick is proportionally related to how much the drone is going to respond. So if we take the max horizontal speed for an example, if you push the stick to 100% of its travel, the drone will move at 100%, so its maximum speed. If you push the stick to 50% of its maximum travel, the drone will travel at 50% of its speed, and 25%, etc., unless you have Expo put in on that specific input. Now, I'll go into that a little bit later on, but this is exactly the same on all the control inputs, so going up and down, left, right, yawing, gimbal tilt, all of that good stuff. They are all proportional controls. Just wanted to make sure that was clear before we move on and get more into these detailed explanations. So first off, we have the speeds. So we have max horizontal speed, max ascent speed and maximum descent speed. These do kind of speak for themselves. This is going to be the maximum physical speed the drone can move in whatever orientation it's telling you. So horizontal speed relates to forwards, backwards, left and right. Ascent speed relates to climbing, and descent speed relates to descending. Generally in these settings, I tend to leave them as they are from the factory, and in normal and sport mode, I always push them up to the maximum available for that particular aircraft, because I find it's just an easier way to balance the other controls. Whereas in Cine, I tend to keep my Cine rates same across all of my drones, and these are the speeds that I use here. But again, they will be in that downloadable PDF, so don't worry about pausing and getting them here. We'll go back to normal, and now if we go down, so all of these speeds here, you can change them, you can slow them down if you want to. If there's a particular shot you're trying to get and the drone is just too fast, then you can reduce that horizontal speed here, so you can drag it down, and you can make it as fast or as slow as you want, and that is going to be the maximum speed. So now if I pushed all the way forwards on the stick, we would only move forward at 1.4 meters a second, where instead, if I push it back to the max of 15 meters a second, now if I push all the way forward on the stick, the drone will accelerate and reach a maximum speed of 15 meters a second. So you can fine tune these if you want, but for me, I tend to leave them as they are. So going down, next ones we have is maximum angular velocity and yaw smoothness. Now these both relate to the yaw control of the drone or its spinning around. So the maximum angular velocity is measured in degrees per second because the yaw movement is spinning, so we're measuring now on an angular basis, so it is degrees per second. And for normal, I have this at 50 degrees a second. I find this is a good balance. And then moving down from there, we have yaw smoothness. This is basically smoothing out the start and end of your yaw input. So if you have a lower yaw smoothness, you're going to have very precise, but it can be a little bit jerky on the control. And if you have a lot of yaw smoothness, say you go all the way up to the max, then the drone is going to feel a bit lazy responding to your inputs. So you have to balance this here. You don't want it super jerky, but you don't want it over damped to the point where you lose precision. So here I find 12 is a good place to be for normal mode. And then moving down, we have brake sensitivity. Brake sensitivity is how quickly the aircraft is going to come to a stop once you release the sticks. Now, having this set to 150, which is what I personally do, I find is the safest option. So when I let go of the sticks, the drone is going to come to a stop as soon as it physically can. If you want the drone to have a more gradual slow to a stop, then you're going to want to reduce the brake sensitivity. But for me, safety reasons wise, I just like to put the brake sensitivity to the maximum. And if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out a lot, pushing for 50,000 by the end of the year. So if you can help me out just by tapping that button, it would be greatly appreciated. So moving down from there, we have Expo. Now Expo, what it does is it helps to smooth out inputs closer to the center region of the stick, but it can also work in the opposite way. It can also make movements closer to the center of the stick more responsive. So if we have a look at Expo, on the left hand side there is a sort of graph with some curves on it, and then to the right we have the options here to adjust the different settings. So up and down relates to the drone climbing and descending, so you can add Expo to that, and then yaw relates to the drone spinning around, and then pitch and roll is moving forwards, backwards, left and right. So what you can do here is, if you have a look on the screen on the left hand side, I'm going to change the up and down to a value of 0.5, and you can see that the red curve now changes to a straight line. This now means that there is no Expo on that input, so our stick movements correlate exactly to the drone's response. So if I was to move the stick 50% of its maximum travel, then the drone would respond at 50% of its maximum movement along that particular axis. So you can see here that if I now pull the up and down back down to where it was at 0.3, the curve changes shape and it flattens off towards the middle. Now, if you have a curve that is flatter towards the middle, what that is doing is reducing the input sensitivity around the center region of the stick, which can give you some finer control over the area of the stick that you normally use the most, which is the center region. Now, if I pushed it the other way, say I pushed it all the way up to 0.7, you can now see that the curve gets steeper, which means that smaller inputs on the stick are going to have a larger response from the drone. So normally we don't tend to have a higher Expo value, we tend to go for something a little bit lower, and here I'm going to put it back to where it was at 0.3. Now Expo works the same across all the different axes here, and it's really useful because it can allow us to still have a fairly high maximum rates, like maximum angular movement in sport mode, but it can still give you some precise control around the center region of the stick when you're trying to get precision, slow cinematic movements. So Expo is a really useful setting here, and one that you can get fine-tuned to give you the best of both worlds. Now, along with optimizing all of your gain and Expo settings, another thing that you can do to help optimize your footage is to enroll in my advanced drone videography course. It'll take you from where you are now, whether that be a complete beginner or somebody who's flown for a little while but just feels like they're a bit stuck, and it'll take you all the way to an advanced drone pilot and cinematic genius. It is already completely transforming people's footage. There is so much information in that course to go at, and I can't wait to see the journey that you go on to progress and become a true top-level cinematic pilot. So I will leave that linked in the video description, and along with that, I also have a completely free weekly newsletter where I give you the latest drone news, hot tips, and a little bit of a sneak peek into what's going on behind the scenes in my life. It's completely free to sign up to. I send it to you every single week, and you can also find that linked in the video description. Okay, moving down from here, we can see we now have the gimbal section. So this relates to all the different controls of our gimbal. So first off, we have the maximum control speed, and this says in brackets tilt. This is how fast the gimbal tilts. Again, because it's an angular movement, it is measured in degrees per second. Here I have it set to 10 degrees a second. The higher the speed, the faster the gimbal will be able to tilt. The slower the speed, the slower it's going to move. Again, we're trying to get a balance here so that we have good control across the whole movement of the wheel here, while still having enough speed there to just move around and see what we need to see. So then below that we have tilt smoothness. This works in exactly the same way as your smoothness. It just smoothens out the start and end of your tilt inputs. Again, here we're just trying to get a nice balance between it not being too jerky and not being over damped so that you lose precision. And then if we roll down a bit, we can see we have the maximum roll speed. Now that's because the Mini 5 Pro has the gimbal roll feature, so you can make people feel sick and dizzy and all of that good stuff. So you also have a control to control the speeds of this. So again, I have this set to 10 degrees a second. I actually have this set exactly the same across all flight modes, just to keep things nice and consistent. I think from the factory it is way too fast in most of the flight modes. So yeah, I've reduced it to 10 and I keep it consistent across them all. And again, roll smoothness, exactly the same as the other smoothness settings. It just smooths out the start and end of that input. Again, a good balance between precision and not being too jerky here. Okay, so those are all the settings there for normal mode. For Cine mode, I will quickly just scroll down here on the screen so you can have a quick look if for some reason you don't want the easy option of downloading that PDF. There you go, that's for Cine mode. And for sport, we can scroll down again, you can have a quick look, yada yada yada, enjoy the time here. And that's it for sport mode. So that was a quick run through of all the Gain and Expo settings, how they all affect how the drone flies, and how you can fine tune them to get the desired result that you want to achieve. Now, if you want to skip all that and just let me have done all the hard work for you, go ahead, download that downloadable PDF in the description, and you can have all of my cinematic rates there. And yeah, that is years of experience there fine tuning these settings, and I hope they're going to work for you. Let me know in the comments if you've tried them out and how you get on with them. Make sure to subscribe. Like I said, I'm pushing for 50k, help me out here. And if you have enjoyed this video, you're also going to enjoy this video right here. And if for some reason, if that one doesn't speak to you, then maybe this one here will instead. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.